Well, hello there, beautiful people. Welcome to episode number 2 of Spilled Kool-Aid, and you don't know the flavor. My name is Nelson Bulluck, a.k.a. Kaz Cray, the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. And I got some new guests this week. I got one returning guest. I'll introduce him first, and it is MrCincoOcho himself, the coach of the Lions, CJ. What's good, fam?
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
First and foremost, before we introduce everybody else, huge shout out to CJ as well, because CJ did a lot of work this week. He had to do a lot of the preseason work, obviously with FG dealing with his back injury, and it's good to hear FG's feeling a little bit better. He's not completely healed up, but he's getting there. But FG still got to move and whatnot. So CJ has been putting in a lot of work, helping us out, doing all the position changes and all that good stuff. So big ups to CJ for sure.
I'm just doing what I can. Whatever makes life easier. I'm doing what I can.
Appreciate you, Pete. Next up, we are inviting one of the OGs of the FGFL. This guy was actually planned to be here. There's one guy here that wasn't playing, but we'll talk about the two planned guys who are here. First, we're going to introduce Mr. Hobie. Deontay Peppers, the head coach of the Steelers. What's good, Hobie?
Nothing much. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you,
I want to happily say that I'm the first guest that's appeared on both FGFL podcasts. So if you ever ask that at your local bar for trivia, you know the answer.
Actually, the correct answer is yours truly, because I was on Val's podcast for the first one of this FGFL.
And Ice Pick was too, I thought.
It was just me and FG. Sadly.
Oh, and how was you? Okay, I thought Ice was on there too.
You guys had an original. There was a podcast before ours.
My question.
We had one the start of season 2 talking about the draft class.
I'm just saying, Val, no shade to them at all. It probably would have behooved them to have, Ice and CJ on their pod, but I mean, considering they contributed directly to the draft class, but whatever. Next person we're going to introduce is I wouldn't say one of the newer coaches, because he's been here for a year, for a season now, but this is his first full off season. He knocked it out the park. Head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Rambo. What's good with you, fam?
Wow. Well with it.
You already know. Alright, so last guy here. Yeah, so I was initially trying to get Spec on here, but I don't know what happened with old Spec. Hopefully we'll get him on next week. But replacing Spectre this week is a man notorious for fucking me over in the last draft. Not this past one, but the draft we had last, the year 1 draft, I guess I would say. The man who sniped me for Pineapple Pete, the man who fleeced Alpo, head coach of the New England Patriots, Sean Reeves Jr., a.k.a. Lance. Lance, what's up?
Freely go.
Fuck you. I mean, you're the one who can do it. What are you talking about? Freely go. You're the one who can do it. Fucking asshole.
I can't stand this fucking guy. I really can't stand him.
Hey, I don't think any of us can stand Lance. Any goddamn ways. Welcome everybody. CJ, of course, welcome back. Welcome in Rambo, Hobie, and Lance. So, last week we talked about the draft and whatnot. Obviously, CJ was here for that, but, this week we're going to talk about a few other things. We're going to talk about FG's Year 3 tier list, which he dropped, I believe, before you started moving and whatnot. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Just talk about some of the names in each tier. And we're also going to react to the coaches poll that I started, and honestly, this wasn't really consulting with anybody. It's not gonna have any bearing on anything, obviously, but it's just something I want to do for fun. I know not everybody got to participate this time, but after week 1, I'll give everybody a fair shot, and then we'll finish it up by that Friday, I guess. But yeah, talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about some other things. First and foremost, let's talk about preseason free agent pickups. So, unlike last year, I think only 5 coaches, myself included, dropped 100 points on a player. Now, obviously, the intention of having like the 100-point thing is to spread them out so you cover all your bases as far as like depth on your roster. Or you're like getting somebody who's like could be a sleeper. But I feel like the trend went a lot differently this year. We had a lot of people spend 100 points on single players. I actually didn't. I spread mine out this year, so I kind of worked backwards, I guess. But I can't help but kind of blame myself for like causing the trend to change, because now I feel like a lot of people kind of panicked. Like, Hobie, you dropped 100 points on fucking Jeremiah Rice, I believe.
He's both wrong.
Yeah, I hate
Jeremiah
you for that, by the way.
Rice.
But I was kind of blown about that. Lance, you spent 100 points on a guy as well, I believe.
Mike Gracie Jr.
Yeah, and CJ, you spent like 80 on a guy.
Yep, I did.
I spread mine out pretty well. Rambo spread out his points pretty well, but I guess the question, like, we can talk about like the guys that we got. Obviously, Lance and Hobie, you only got one guy, but Hobie, I'll start with you. How do you feel like Jeremiah Rice will contribute to your roster this year, or just contribute to the team as a whole?
Yeah, I feel like that's a fair question. After my draft had me taking, I believe, 4 defensive linemen. Yeah. So I wanted to totally revamp the defensive line, and I wanted to pick up a bunch of depth down the board. And as soon as I saw that there was a right end sitting in preseason FA that had X Factor, that was the same overall as a projected starter, I knew I had to go after him, no matter how old he was, what his stats looked like, just because of the upside. So I'm happy to say that I brought home the one X Factor from preseason FA.
But you couldn't go after Blake Todd like Elmy did?
No, I couldn't. I think we all know why.
Yeah, we all know why at this point. Alright, so I guess we'll move on to Lance. So, you picked up Mike Tracy Jr. I kind of looked at him. I don't know if I dropped points on him. I don't remember if I did or not, but guard wasn't like a big need for me at the time. But is that who you're planning on starting on left guard, or you just wanted to like see if you could develop him a bit?
No, he's going to be playing at left tackle.
Interesting.
I mean, I traded Jonah Williams before the draft, and then I lost Ragnow in free agency. So it's been rotating pieces at O-line.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he's a 75 superstar, so I don't know what he is at left tackle, but at left guard, he was a 75 superstar, so he could definitely possibly develop for you better than most other players in general, like on the O-line. Obviously, like the offensive line, it doesn't really dev well in Madden, unfortunately. Like, even like if you're like playing every game in the franchise, O-line just notoriously doesn't develop all that well, but we'll see what happens. CJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta look at who you. I don't know who you like who all you offered, but
so at least the 2 guys I offered are the 2 guys I got. I got both the guys I offered.
There. So you got Eduardo Wilson, the kicker. Obviously, you needed the kicker.
Yeah, the kicker was needed for sure.
All need kickers. I mean, last few years I had like the CPU fill my roster with punters, but I was like, fuck it, I'm getting Tressway this year. But you got Eduardo Wilson, and you got Stone Schaffner.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eduardo Wilson has a chance to like. I mean, as a kicker, he's definitely gonna produce. But
yeah,
what kind of role do you think Stone Schaffner is gonna have on your team?
I honestly he's pretty much mainly D-line depth. I got a guy who can play all 3 spots on a 3-4 interior line. And I think he will be great. But as of right now, he's definitely just depth, just so we have that flexibility. Reason why we're happy to get Freddie Fish in the draft. just the guys who can service all three interior line positions. And I feel like in the off chance that one of our guys goes down, he'll be great to step in.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like a lot of the guys who like were one with 20 points or less or like around that are mainly going to be depth guys. I mean, I did spend like 22 points on Noah Kelly, and he's like a 76. Say normal dev. I might be wrong about 70. Yeah, 76 normal. Obviously, I have Blakely starting on one end, and I have John Franklin Myers now. So, like Kelly could be somebody I develop at this point, but we'll have to see. But Rambo, last but certainly not least, gotta look at who the Bengals ended up picking up, because I know you spread your points pretty far out. So you ended up getting Shakir Sanders, who's somebody I actually was looking at in the draft, and you got Quavarius Chroma. You got Randall Donaldson, who you spent 58 points on. So you did splurge a little bit on one player, but it's like, you ended up getting him. So you got the punter Presley Harvin.
And I got a fullback.
And you got a fullback,
too. Real fullback.
Yeah. Because I know you were experimenting with Kamalani John there last year, but now you got him being the backup to BJ John. But
the thing with Kamalani was, my bad, I didn't cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna say, the thing with Kamalani last year was I wanted him to get playing time. I didn't, before I traded Bijan, I had him and Bummy back there. And so it was, how do I get Kamalani in the mix? He wasn't a better power back than Bijan, so I just put him in fullback.
That's kind of what I was trying to do with Chickaconko last year, so I get that for sure. Who do you think of those guys that you picked up is going to have like the biggest impact as far as like year one goes? Because they're only guaranteed for 1 year at this point because it's a 1 year contract. But who do you think will have the biggest impact out of those guys?
Well, I picked up the kicker, Duncan, who if I have my way, I'm going to try and re-sign as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But out of the rest of them, either the fullback, which is weird to say, but in my offense, Kamalani scored like 4 or 5 touchdowns last year, so I'm interested to see about that. And on defense, it'll be Quavarius Chroma, mainly because I got him, coming off. He's gonna play in the backfield with the safety. So.
I didn't really get to look at Chroma like that. But I mean,
Donaldson's.
He is the highest.
Another piece. Yeah,
he was a 74 star.
A piece that I wanna see. Like I wanna plug him in the starting lineup, but I wanna see how the sim gonna run. It's always injuries and stuff. So it's like I need to have another solid swing tackle.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, and I mean, worst case scenario, you just experiment with some guys. They don't end up playing well. You can just like move them around, utilize free agency and all that. That's what I'm doing with a lot of guys I'm starting on defense as well. So I feel that. So going a little bit further into preseason free agency, there were a lot, like I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of people who spent 100 points on certain players. Obviously, Hobie and Lance did. Obviously worked out for them. What was the craziest thing that you saw somebody spend 100 points on? I'll start with CJ.
My bad, can you repeat that one more time?
So I guess I'll elaborate a little bit. Like, what do you think, like, who were you surprised that got like 100 points dropped on them the way that it did? What
I don't
player?
think I'm necessarily surprised about anybody, because thinking about it at the end of the day, most of what this is preseason FA is just simply to fill the gaps you have left, right? And so typically, as Hobie mentioned earlier, and as you already made the comment on, he put 100 points on a guy. He wanted him. He may not be. He's going to start because obviously he was an X factor preseason, undrafted free agent, right? So obviously everybody's going to want to go after that. But in case like me, maybe even for Rambo, heck, maybe for Lance, like, we had gaps to fill. And so the fact that somebody had 100 points put on them isn't necessarily surprising. It's more of just simply feeling necessity. Now, as FG pointed out in a VC previously, what I am surprised about is the fact that there wasn't any of like the veterans that were bid on. There wasn't any like FGFL veterans, any IRO players. It was all guys from the draft class. Now maybe that could be due to how everything was framed, because of course some coaches just some know, some don't. You didn't have to bid on rookies. You could have bid on some of the older guys. So it could have been a reason. Maybe some misunderstanding. Even though FG's probably he's gonna hear this later, he's gonna be yelling at me and be like, "No, like everybody's done this before. Nothing's changed." I can hear him yelling at me about it in my head now. But like, it's it's that's I guess that could be the only surprise is that there none of the veterans or older players were bid on. It was just the rookies.
So I gotta snitch on myself. I was one of those people who didn't realize you could also go after like free agents and whatnot who weren't just rookies. So I'm self-reporting. I'm not. I mean, obviously I've done this before, but it's like anytime I've done preseason free agency, I've only gone after rookies. So I feel like it was something that I forgot you could do, but I'm self-reporting.
Honestly, I don't care. It could be like that at all. It could literally be that. But like in my case, I did look at them because I was like, yeah, let me see what's out there. And there's a couple guys, but like I needed depth. I wanted a guy who, like in my case, Schaffner, I think he's 22, 23, right? Super strong. He can play all three D-line spots in the 3-4. And he's a 69 normal or 68 normal, whatever it is. That guy, he's going to be cheap to re-sign come the offseason. And knowing that I'm about to put all this money in Quentin Williams, I didn't want to have to go after, a Cam Jordan, for example, who is an X factor, older, who's going to want more money than what maybe Cam Jordan or what Cam Jordan would want more money in the offseason than what Schaffner's going to want come then whenever I come back to re-sign him.
For sure. We have a special guest who just dropped on in here. Got old Elmy in here. What's up, Elmy?
Oh, hey, I didn't realize y'all were recording something.
Yeah, we are. But
this fucking guy.
This fucking guy. Dude. I ain't mad about it, though. I guess I'll rephrase my question. It's not necessarily a surprise, but it's like, I guess the way I'd frame this, how should I frame this question?
I mean, I understood the question. I mean,
yeah, I understood completely. It's just kind of,
I do have a surprise.
Right. Well, Hobie, you go ahead with your biggest surprise.
Yeah, my biggest surprise was this whole rookie kicker debacle that happened.
Yeah.
So the best two kickers available were Eduardo Wilson and Jonah Kurtz.
Mm-hmm.
The next two being Sebastian Duncan, and Desmond Tale. Not quite sure how to say that. But Eduardo Wilson obviously got signed.
Yep.
But RSV, the Commanders, put 100 points to Ventale.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Sebastian Duncan, if I could say that name right, gets signed for 14 points. And Jonah Kurtz does not get bid on at all. There's an 80 overall rookie kicker sitting in preseason FA right now.
Mind you, Greg Joseph got signed up for like 3 points. So. I mean, Granted, I feel like a lot of people are like me and we're dumb. We just didn't realize that you could actually sign veterans. I mean, it's just like a Duduka moment for like pretty much all of us, myself included. Like, because you think about it, why the fuck would FG post like the entire list of like free agents there if we weren't allowed to bid on those guys too? So kind of a dumb moment for like me, for myself and a few other guys. Because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who didn't realize that you could also sign veterans. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Hobie. I mean, Kurtz is an 80 overall, hidden dev, has not been signed. Greg Joseph is a 73 overall, 31 years old, and he got 3 points on him. I mean, I don't know how bad Alpo needed the kicker or whatever, or maybe he thought that like the other guys were going to get bet on or whatever, because Alpo obviously was one of those that knew that you could go after veterans, but, you know. I don't know. It don't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I mean, I have Justin Tucker, so I don't really give a fuck. But hey,
I mean, honestly, I'm willing to fully believe and commit that was, you know, what you just said about like Alpo, for example, where he just thought someone was gonna get him. I was you could tell, you could talk to Ice about it, you know, you could talk to anybody who I talked to about it.
Mhm.
Like I was in the same boat. Like I was heavily debating on putting points on Wilson just because he's a star kicker,
Yeah.
right? High 80, he's an 80 overall star kicker, and so I was heavily debating on putting points on one of the normal dev guys who were UDFA or last season or whatever, and so I almost talked myself out of Wilson altogether. So,
but to that point, I think to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, Hobie. Why, like, I guess, like, what you were saying is, like, why the hell did RSV not just use 100 points on Eduardo Wilson or Kurtz? Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to spend it on the 4th best rookie kicker. But, I don't know. Rainbow, I'll let you go next. Like, what do you think was the biggest surprise was in preseason FA? Doesn't necessarily have to be, like, 100 points, but, like, you know, just in general.
Well, the kicker thing definitely caught my attention. I question that. I hate calling people out on stuff because you know I'm still technically new
You're fine.
But it's 100 points on Juan Cooper, and then 100 points on Davian Pierce with two points that I kind of like I chuckled to myself because of how they went about the draft and what they're doing now to counter that, because Cowboys guy, you had enough picks to be able to get a D tackle.
Yeah.
You put 100 points on a 71, and I understand he's a superstar, but he's 71. He's not going to play in here. So it's just like you put 100 points to stash somebody, okay, and then you got 100 points on Daniel Pierce who stood out because you took a running back in the first round.
It seemed like he was like really trying to fix that singular mistake when that wasn't really like the only like foobar that SG had like the entire like draft process. And I agree with you, Rainbow, because it's like you're spending 100 points on him, but let me read out the rest of the running backs that are on the list. You know, you had Curtis Adams who got picked up for like 3 points by the Panthers, and then Husker also got Cam Akers for like 30 points. And then Speck got Najee Green for 45 points. So, aside from those three and Dameon Pierce, we'll look at this list real quick. I mean, he could have had Miles Sanders. He could have had Kareem Hunt. He could have had Rashad Penny. Alex, like, there are a lot of solid running backs who can contribute to your team that he could have signed. Even like if he wanted to go for like Derry or go for Deontay Foreman, those guys can definitely contribute to the team. Or he could pick up Nico Hundley, who's also a rookie running back who has a higher overall than fucking Sparacio at this point. I don't know, like, and it's like we're not trying to dogpile on SG, obviously, but at the same time,
I was gonna go back to the Cowboys coach and say the available free agents for defensive tackle. My point with that is that you chose a 73 superstar, but there's an 83 X factor, an 80 star, 78 star, 77 normal. There's better players available at that position
that he could have spent 100 points on. I mean, I guess they got the guys that they wanted, but it's just like, I feel like, because last year when I spent 100 points on David Harris, I needed a tight end because I didn't really trust Chib to play tight end, and Gator Hampton was just a complete shot in the dark whether he'd be good at tight end or not. So it's just like, if you're going to spend 100 points on a guy, spend 100 points on the guy who's like at the top of the list. That's all I'm saying. Like, try to get the best available guy there. Like, I don't like, you know. And fair enough to SG, he did that, but it's like I feel like going after a running back like that, you know. I feel like there's like gray area that's involved with that, but you know. Lance.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Like, biggest surprise as far as preseason free agency went?
It's not a surprise, but Pepper Jack with the Daduka.
I mean, yeah, it's not a surprise. I mean, it's Pepper Jack.
Putting points on McNeil question mark.
I mean, love the guy, but Pepper Jack sometimes just does things that make my brain go Daduka, and that's like where Daduka came from. That's just the sound of my brain just like rumbling when something dumb is done. And Pepper Jack's not the only person who does dumb things in here on a consistent basis, but there's enough of them where just my brain just goes Daduka, and that's where
it's all the truth. Yeah.
It's all facts, but much love, all of them in the world of Pepper Jack, but goddamn it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about CB Rush question mark.
I don't know, Pepper Jack. It ain't that hard to spell people's names right. Cause let us start spelling Pepper Jack with like PEPRJECK. You gonna be upset? Like, come on, dog.
Hey, you forgot the question mark.
All right,
Question mark.
Oh Lord. All right, so next up, we're gonna talk about this tier list that good old brother franchise put out. Or he got incapacitated. I gotta find it first, and then we'll talk about it. Where's it at?
Before he took some perks, I have it up. It was posted January 31st.
Here, let me.
I got it. Too. So FG was just like prepared to be salty, as this is based off solely off of FGFL 24 with zero influence of past coaching success, which is like what a lot of people gotta like understand about a lot of these lists that like were done. Obviously, Hobie, you've been one of the best coaches in the league for quite some time. Like, you know what you're doing for the most part. But honestly, when it came to my list, I don't feel like I really took that into account. I feel like I just took into account what was going on with it. But which is like why, like when RSV was getting all salty about it too, I'm just like, bro, like, you know, you made the playoffs once and then you blew the playoffs. You blew a playoff spot to a team that was basically unmanned in the Giants, and then you let Aqua win your division. Like, come on, dog. But I mean, obviously, there's only so much you can do, like with Sim. But basically, I'm gonna ask you guys about your rankings. CJ, I'll start with you. Obviously, like you're a newer coach, so it's kind of a harder question to answer for you. But where do you feel like you belong on the tier list, like just in general?
Honestly, like if I'm being honest with myself, right, I truly think I am a B tier or higher coach. And that's and obviously you can't say that FG specifically said that he wasn't counting previous coaching experience, but I feel like at least with my moves made this year, knowing that I was not able to control my draft picks, obviously per agreement, but wasn't able to control my draft picks, and I feel like I did a great job building this team. And at least on paper, they're a hell of a better team than they were last season. I feel like I'll be somewhere in the B tier coaches once this season's done. If I have a lot more success than anticipated, then I feel like I will definitely be put higher. But I mean, obviously, I'm currently question mark, because obviously this is gonna be my first year coaching purely without any other involvement in the draft class or anything like that.
That's valid, to be fair. Like, honestly, I would say like B tier is like about right for you. Like maybe like high B, low A. But Hobie, you are currently a B tier coach on FG's list. FG said that he knows that you've been laying a lot of groundwork preparing to make her run, but it hasn't happened for you yet. We know it will, but if it's based off FGFL 24 alone, you're not quite elite yet. Again, like I said, I feel like, you know, overall, throughout the entire time you've been in the FGFL, you've definitely been top tier. Worst case scenario, A tier. But I think B tier is fair as well. But what are your thoughts on like what FG said?
I mean, I agree on really everything that you said. Based on these rankings, and I know that they're not in order, but it would place me at a maximum of number 4, which I actually feel is kind of generous considering my last season. Obviously, I didn't want to really contend. I had no intention of contending, even though my team almost went above 500. But based on like his quote unquote like description of B tier, real contenders at an FGFL Bowl every season, but when? That's been me since the beginning. Like, I've always had a real contender at an FGFL Bowl every season, but when? So, I'm not mad at B tier at all. I think after this season, I might be in A tier. I feel like only time will tell, but I feel like after this season, it could happen.
I mean, it could definitely happen. I feel like you're definitely going to have a lot of competition as far as the division goes. Obviously, Spectre is the top guy. Obviously, you have Rambo coming up right now, and you still have a lot to prove. And I know Pepper Jack is Pepper Jack, but it's like realistically, it's Madden Sim. You can never sleep on anybody in Madden Sim. So I mean, maybe Pepper Jack might actually wake up and just be like, "Damn, y'all want to sit here, call me a Daduka and whatnot? I'm gonna turn up on you. I'm gonna show y'all a Daduka right now." You could always hope. But next up, Rambo, you're also B tier, and FG said about you. This newcomer should be a contender quickly. Amazing draft. Still kept Jay Herbo. He's gonna be a threat. He did all the work. He got his stuff done, rocked the park in his first draft ever. If you didn't know about him, you do now. So, well, Crack kind of self-reported that he kind of knew what you were doing on a lot of things. I'm gonna self-report too. I kind of knew what you were doing as far as certain things went as well. I just kind of kept quiet about it as much as I could, but I feel like you definitely got a good shot at jumping from B tier to A tier. But what are your thoughts on what FG said as far as you were concerned?
Well, self-flattery out of the picture first. I want to say I'm grateful for where FG placed me, and the expectation. I hope I live up to it. My personal style of things, I like to say I'm measured. I'm somewhat of a strategist, and I like to know how things are gonna play out and what my odds are around getting it, so that when I make a claim, it's something I can do. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how I wanted to incorporate this draft into the flow of the team, the contract situations, etc. And so, literally everything that I said I wanted to do, I made happen. And I was happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now we're gonna talk about fucking Lance. So, Lance, you are the only one of us in here that was C tier. We'll talk about my grade in just a moment. But it says, always close to being very good. However, his methods are always questionable, and they have his own user players questioning him. Now it's only really one user player questioning you, because you traded King Dusk to the Bears, so finally we get we finally get King Dust in Chicago after the whole thing that happened with him and Crack or whatever. What are your thoughts on what FG said, Lance?
I mean, it's fair. It's sort of fair. I feel like I have been by far the hardest division in the FGFL currently.
Really? I vehemently disagree with that, but continue.
I mean, the Bills have the best team in the FGFL, and the Dolphins, I believe, have the second highest overall team. I mean, they're running Pokemon, so I mean, I guess
Well,
it
that,
doesn't say much.
I mean, I would make the argument that my division is tougher than yours if Octi and freaking CML pay attention. I mean, CML fucked around, won the FGFL Bowl this first year. Octi is Octi. And then Nick is slowly but surely building up that defense to be like the best in the FGFL. So I'd make the argument I'm in a tougher spot than you because Alpo obviously has arguably the best, not unanimously, but it's a pretty fair argument to say he has the best team in the FGFL. So you got me there. Then you got Pokemon. Enough said. And
Paducah.
Yeah, that. I mean, and I ain't trying to shit on Pride or nothing like that, but it seems like Pride is like a little less engaged with this FGFL than he was in previous years. Just like and obviously I haven't been like around for every FGFL, but it's just like that's what it looks like to me at least. Again, Pride kind of like told me he does have a direction, but it's like it doesn't seem like the Jets really have a direction. That's just my personal opinion on the outside looking in. Maybe Pride fucks around, makes a playoff run this year. It could definitely happen, but I don't know. But continue what you were saying, Lance.
I mean that's about it. I mean it's a fair enough grade.
I mean, I think there are a lot of questionable moves that you make. I think you're like a lower tier B. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think you're
where
a
I'm
bad
at.
coach. I just think you take a lot of risks that seem, questionable.
Just get for the
Of course.
best.
But you've definitely made moves that were like good. I mean, obviously you walked into this draft with like one pick and it was like a 7th round pick. You end up having a first at a certain point. You got a lot of other good picks. I mean, you got Carrijo and Yuki, so
Thanks, Alpo. I appreciate my draft.
Yeah, I feel like you had a really good draft for sure. FG has me at a B tier, and it reads, I can't wait to see what a full year of Art Henry does, but I'll tell you, what a difference it makes when you get active and pay attention. Proud of him, and he's in this dangerous category now. Thank you, FG. Appreciate you, pimp. I would say that B is absolutely fair and actually a little bit generous because obviously I got hoed on the Lico shit. Now, obviously, Lico held out after his first year, or like at the end of his first year, so respectfully, maybe I dodged a bullet by Lance screwing me over like that.
I just helped him.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I also didn't do enough due diligence on like scouting the first year. I think this past year I did a better job of like doing due diligence, and I had a pretty good first day. Second day, not so much. But I'm getting there. Like I feel like I'm getting there. I keep on climbing up. I keep on, I'm learning how to do certain things as far as like scouting and whatnot, putting together my roster, and I feel like if I don't contend this year, I'll definitely contend next year, but we'll see about that. So, sticking with the tier list that FG made, what was the biggest surprise to you guys? I'll start with you, CJ, then we'll go to Hobie, then Rambo, then Lance again, and I'll round it out. What were the two biggest surprises, I guess? Maybe like the biggest positive surprise and biggest negative surprise?
Oh man, I'll let Hobie start because I know I talk a lot.
All right, Hobie.
Okay. Starting with the positive, he's been around a long time, and he's in the same tier as me now, which feels very odd to say, but I love seeing Sad Dan do well. Got ranked in the B tier, one spot above Radio. I know FG said that they aren't ranked like within the tiers, but that's just how it looks. But I'm proud of my boy Sad Dan. He's made great strides this FGFL, so I'm very happy for him. One negative. Oh no, it just jumped. Oh no. Oh, what happened? Hold on. I'm pulling it back up. There we go. Come on, man. Just by the looks of it, I would say There's two guys in C tier that I thought would be higher when they joined the league, and that's Husker and SG.
Yeah.
I just want to say, no offense to SG, he was being ranked a top 3 coach when his guys were the 1 seed, beating the Ravens, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And now he's being ranked in C tier just after one off season.
Yeah.
That's how you know shit was bad.
Oh yeah.
And then Husker, like, obviously building the team from the ground up. Totally respect it. It's just if you were to tell me that at the beginning of this FGFL that Husker would be ranked in C tier, I'd be like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CJ, what are your thoughts?
So, going up, I don't think I necessarily have one going up, but I definitely have one down. So I'll start there first. And honestly, for me, it's Val. Val, I believe, was placed in D,
Yeah.
and and the way FG put it was just aggressively mid all FGFL. Like, I just think Val has a case of I think they're doing well, but it just so happens that there's other people who are excelling right now, and that's kind of either blame that as the standard or whatever you want to, but I just think Val is underrated in my opinion. I think they do a good job. Of course, I can't speak for FG when come on the scouting department scouting side of it, but at least as a coach, they're passionate, they mean well, and they're trying their best to put the best schemes out there, the best team together they put out there, and when you're and I feel like they are good, but I think the part that drags them down is the fact that they are in the AFC South, and when you have Derek who just went 0-17 and Troy who just only had a 2-win season, like I guess you definitely could have done better or done more with the opportunities you had. So as much as I can see it, I disagree. I think they should be ranked higher. The high end of it, I was also gonna shout out Dan, but I'm obviously not gonna do it twice. I am honestly, I think Nick being as high as he is definitely someone to recognize. Um, I definitely think that he's definitely like kind of been silently good. He had a lot of more action early on than he has lately, but his team staying competitive, and despite not getting really picked to win his division or make a wild card spot, I think he'll definitely be someone that can find himself in the mix, in the hunt, or even clinching a spot coming into the season.
I absolutely think that Nick and the Cardinals are the dark horse to come out of the division just because Octi is Octi. Obviously, C-Mill won the FGFL Bowl his first year, missed the playoffs last year. Obviously, I lost a bunch of games early in the season because of Henry getting hurt. And, the thought is if Henry would have stayed healthy, maybe we get into the playoffs, maybe we win the division, but well, not win the division. We maybe probably get into the playoffs, but a lot of people are sleeping on Nick. But he's really built that defense up, and they might go crazy. So I definitely see the Nick pick. Rambo, I'm gonna go to you next. So, who is your biggest surprise as far as like how highly they were rated, and then your biggest surprise as far as how low they were rated?
Well, I guess on the front end, I um I'm gonna have to go Pride. I don't quite see if the rankings are based off of FGFL 24.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how to replacing it with everybody else. But I ain't shooting no bullshit at nobody. But you had 10 picks in the mid rounds of a decorated draft, and not a lot to show for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just confused me. And then on the low end, it's not exactly low. I just feel like Spector could be a B coach. Since he did make the playoffs last year, and the way that team kind of looked to me with the new setup, they're probably gonna do real decent this year too.
I agree. Yeah, Spector was gonna be my pick, but maybe I'll still pick him. Well, Lance, what are your thoughts as far as like coaches you think were rated? I guess like the way I should have framed it is coaches you think that were overrated by this list and underrated by the list. So you can start with overrated if you
Uh, I'm not sure if I would say anyone was overrated. I think it's a pretty fair list. I will say, I think Elmi should be an A tier.
I agree. I agree.
Him being an B tier to me feels criminal.
I feel like as far as coaches that are rated too high for me, that's a tough one. I agree that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to say I feel like very overrated currently, and that's going. You already know they're gonna start coping when I say this. I don't really
I'm
like.
waiting for it.
I feel like RSV has really underachieved in this FGFL, and I know he's gonna get pissed off at me for saying it. It's like, bro, I alluded to it earlier. You got Aqua in your division. You got me. Well, not Meals anymore. You have FG now, but Meals is like sleepwalking. And it's like, with all respect to Justin, Justin is studying abroad right now. So you have the advantage, RSV. You have a wide open division. Well, it ain't as wide open anymore because FG is there now. But it's like, I don't know, man. You got
very weak division.
I feel like, you know, as far as Rambo saying what he said about Pride, I feel like the same could be said about RSV. Like, these are two veterans in the FGFL. I know they're going through life and whatnot, but it's like, I feel like, you know, they haven't really made as much of waves as they have in the past, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's a bad coach, and I do think that he's like a B to A tier coach overall, but if we're just going off FGFL 24, I think B tier might be a little too high. I don't know. And that's going to piss him off, but hopefully it motivates RSV to, you know, right the ship, I guess, because I ain't rooting against RSV. I like RSV, but, you know. Coaches that I think are rated way too low, I'm going to say, I agree with you on Val, CJ. I don't feel like, I agree that Val has been very mid, but mid is like C tier to me. I don't feel like Val has been that bad. Like they're trying to make moves. I feel like what put Val behind the 8-ball was drafting Derrick Henry in the first round, and this is coming from a Titans fan saying that, so you know it means something. I was not going. Everybody was saying, "Oh, well, that was going to be Kaz's first round pick." I had no plans on drafting Derrick Henry at all because historically, in Madden, Henry does terribly. Sim. He looks a lot better in like with the mod, but it's like I wasn't going to draft him first round, and we didn't know like we were going to use the mod anyway, so there really was no point in me drafting Henry. But I do agree Val has been pretty mid so far this FGFL, but I think putting them at D tier with Pepperjack and Troy, I don't know if I like that. Because Val was a game away from the playoffs in year one. All Val had to do was beat the Texans, and unfortunately they came up short. But Val was on the doorstep. But I guess also playing in such a bad division doesn't help their case. But I still feel like Val is a lot better than a D tier coach, though, even in this FGFL. But I guess the next thing we can talk about is you guys' reactions to the coaches poll that I put out. So again, this coaches poll is just something that I'm doing just like kind of bring a little bit more engagement to the FGFL. this isn't like an FG approved or denied thing at all. Like, I kind of started it when FG was like in the process of moving and stuff. And it was one of those things that was like really spur of the moment where I was just like, yo, maybe I should put out like a type of poll that's very similar to like the coaches poll and the media poll for college football. Only it doesn't have any bearing on anything. It's just like we're kind of picking who we think are the top 10 coaches or top 10 teams in the league currently. So the preseason polls, basically I got 17 coaches and they all replied to my DM by filling out the poll. First place is worth 10 points. Second is worth 9, so on and so forth, all the way down to 10. So the beginning rankings, the preseason rankings of this coaches poll. Surprise, surprise, the Bills are at number 1 with 161 points. They had 11 first place votes out of 17. We had a tie for second place. The Vikings and Seahawks tied for second. Although I guess the Vikings would really be the true number 2 because they got a first place vote and the Seahawks didn't. The big surprise to me is the Bears finishing 4th at 101 points and getting 3 first place votes. I mean, I guess they won the Super Bowl last year, or the FGFL Bowl last year, so, Then we have the Broncos 5th with 87 points. The Buccaneers 6th with 78 points and 2 first place votes. Steelers were 7th, Hobie. There you go, at 53. The Colts were at 52, or at 8th place with 52 points. And then Rambo and I were tied at 9th with 24 points each, which, I mean, I had the Bengals in my top 10. I did not put my Rams in the top 10, so that was a little shocking. Others that received votes, we had the Ravens at 22 points, Raiders at 21, Chiefs 15, Commanders 13, Jets 13 as well, Saints at 12, Patriots 10, Lions at 9 with 1 second place vote, the Dolphins at 7 with 1 fourth place vote, Packers with 6 points, and the Jags with 2 points. So, CJ, I'm going to start with you here. What was your biggest, what are your overall thoughts about this poll we put out, or that I put out?
First off, whoever put me to, thank you, but it's not necessary. It's okay.
Ditto. Somebody put me in second place as well. I'm like, y'all are crazy. But
I mean, like, I honestly, I don't hate it. I mean, why should I? The teams that were there are definitely teams that I was debating on putting them there. I know it wasn't perfect, like word for word on who was where, but all those teams that you mentioned in the top 10, I was definitely contemplating between all of them. Some of them I was spot on, some of them I wasn't. And so I respect the list, and I think that it's definitely something that's fun. Maybe one of those things that could be done like preseason, mid-season, and then finally the end of the season, despite whoever wins the bowl. But like at the end of the day, some of the teams are there just because they had a good run. Some are put lower because they had a bad run. So this is all just opinion, and we'll see what it looks like when the teams start facing off. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, and to your point, I'm not gonna say who voted for me at number 2. I know who did. You're insane. That's all I'm gonna say. Hobie, what are your thoughts?
First spot, me being at number 7. I hate that. Stop it. Me being the no. Me being the third AFC team on that list, hell no. Don't give me that weight on my shoulders.
Right.
We just went 8-9, and we have a rookie at QB who is injury prone.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
We don't need that yet.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't have any real surprises. I will say, when we started getting to the bottom of the list, when I was doing it myself, it became a lot tougher. Like, the lines in between how good these teams were got a lot closer. So I had the Ravens in mine. I had the Raiders in mine. And I think, other than that, that was my personal top 10. I didn't have the Bengals or Rams in, I'm sorry. I had myself at 10, because I had to throw myself in there.
I don't blame you for not putting at all.
Oh, I don't. I'm gonna say this. I'm out myself. I did not. I don't think I put the Rams in there either. If I'm being completely honest.
I don't blame anybody for not putting us there. Rambo, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm still technically new, and all I really got to go by is the results of last year, more so than understanding or history of coaches' patterns and stuff like talking about. I'm still learning that.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, when I did it, which I lucky just finished it, but
You're good.
when I was doing it, my thing is to look at the team structures. You know what I'm saying? More so than anything else.
Yeah.
And I agree with most of the top 10. I don't know that my team belongs in the top 10. We picked in the top 10. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Not too sold on that part, but it's a decent list. Like I say, I do understand Hobie that I wasn't here. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't competing last year. Like why y'all want to do that kind of a thing? But looking like in defense of looking at your team, your roster, despite the fact that your rookie quarterback is injury prone, y'all still look far better on paper than my team does. And I guess like that's kind of where those rankings kind of come from. So listen, I get it.
I mean, I'm gonna keep it real with you, Hobie. I had you at number 5, so it's like
Number 5? Come on, man. I don't know this.
I'm gonna report my own stuff. I ain't gonna say what anybody else put anywhere else. Like, obviously I didn't report the dude who put me at 2, even though I think they're insane. I will say the person who picked number 2, this might be a dead giveaway of who it is, but actually not really, because it's a few people. They haven't been incredibly active over the throughout the off season, but they've been putting in moves. Yeah. I'll leave it there. Lance,
it was put you at 2 or put me at 2?
No,
it was Pepper Jack. I knew it.
It was not. I will. Maybe.
Spill the beans. Spill the beans.
I will say this. It wasn't Pepper Jack. Pepper Jack is not putting an entry in. It was not Pepper Jack who put me at 10.
Dang.
I'm not gonna say who put CJ at number 2 either. So, but I still think putting the Lions I still think, I know the Dolphins have a good team on paper, but putting them at 4 was crazy to me too. And I want to say, I'm not going to say who put the Dolphins at 4, but it was still crazy. All right, but Lance, what were your thoughts on the poll, though?
I mean, I get the Bears at 4. They just won the bowl, but I think Crack has basically came out and said he's going to rebuild this year.
Yeah, he has.
I kind of don't understand them at 4. I mean, I understand it, but I also don't understand it.
I think I had them in my top 10. I think I had them like.
No, I put them in the top 10. I don't know if I put them that high.
Put them at 4. They got 3 first place votes. I know they're just coming off of an FGFL bowl, but it's like Crack has literally come out and said, I'm rebuilding this year. He's not tanking, but he's rebuilding though. He still wants to win, but he's okay with not winning.
I don't think he's even rebuilding.
He's retooling, if anything.
He's retooling, and that's completely different than rebuilding. It's like, I'll put it out there. I'm one of the guys who put the Bears in the top 5. I'm pretty sure. If not, I put them at 6. I mean, the team is good. They've proven to be good. Yeah, sure. Maybe some could argue that they got good Chet all those games, so maybe they got bailed out by that. I mean, but they're a good team still. A lot of his defensive threats are still there. Sure, he doesn't have. Is it what Debo he doesn't have anymore?
Or NBK.
Okay,
yeah, Matt BK's gone too.
But he's still retooling. He isn't just gonna. I don't think he's gonna completely go down the drain. He's still gonna be a playoff spot. Hell, he's in my division. I got to deal with him twice a year. Like, I'm not. I already told. We some coaches were in the coaches VC, and we had a whole guess your record thing. Some of y'all were in it. Where like I told everybody, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm splitting with my entire division just because I think that's just how good everybody is. Like that includes crack. Of course, all respect to MLK, and of course respect to Radio, who've done this, just as long as I've have, if not longer, technically by the games, if you count all of them. But I don't think they're. I think they're perfectly fine being in the top 10 compared to what some people may think.
Yeah, I think my only worry about crack in general is just his O-line this year. Because like his O-line isn't as good as it was last year, arguably. Still has Tunsil, but he's trying to
on the block.
Yeah, he's already putting Tunsil on the block, so we'll see. And it's like from what I've seen from the mod, it's like they really value O-line play. So it's like I've rebuilt my O-line. I still saw some sims where we were getting run-throughs and whatnot. Granted, it was against the Cardinals, but still. I can definitely see the Bears being like a top 10 team. I don't know if I'd put them top 5 though, like still, because they did have some pretty major losses. They still have the weapons they have on offense though. They have Lockett, they have Godwin, they have Dust, they still have CMC. We'll see what Dylan Niles can do with them. But I mean,
Dusk has the potential to become the next DK or Debo in that offense.
Oh, he's playing running back.
Oh, he's playing running back. Oh,
I mean,
well,
even still, you can still put. I'm pretty sure you can still put running backs at receiver in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can still put them on the receiver depth chart. If I'm wrong about that, my bad. It's been a while since I played Madden.
But you can't upgrade any of his. You can't upgrade any of his like real catching stats.
I mean, you can upgrade the elusive back and like the receiving back stuff, though.
Yeah.
If I may comment on the Bears.
Yeah.
Chet and CMC themselves are worth 6 to 7 wins.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
They will win you some games. And then you combine that with Chadley on defense. They still have a great defensive 4 on the defensive line. I think they have the potential to be a top 5 team this year. Like, in a good year, they're a top 5 team, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to doubt them because they just won the bowl. So,
yeah, it's just like all the losses that they had. And I feel like that's the reason a lot of people are like starting to like be like, I don't know how they're gonna do this year. But we'll see what happens. I mean, anything could happen in Madden Sim. Like you might fuck around and go like 15-2 or something like that with the roster he has. I don't know. Possible. It is indeed possible. As far as like other surprises, I'm a little shocked that people were giving the Buccaneers. I'm surprised the Buccaneers got 2 votes, and I know that Tampa's a good team. I know. I feel like Clover's another coach. He kind of inherited Walty's roster more or less, minus Travis Rawlings because Zipping Spider.
Duduka.
Clover traded Rawlings.
Good one, Lance.
No, it was you silly goose.
It was Walty, okay? I'm sure.
Yeah, Walter did it.
Of course.
I don't know. I feel like Tampa is going to take a little bit of a step back. I think they'll still end up winning the division, but I don't know. I mean, I guess as long as they have Mahomes, they're always going to be contending, but still. We're definitely going to be watching them quite a bit. But I don't know.
It's similar to the Bears. I mean, Mahomes and Kenneth Walker are going to win you a shit ton of games,
I guess I'll take... I'm going to...
Cooper Kupp.
I feel like I'm going to walk that back a little bit because Tampa still has a really good roster. I mean, they're definitely not as gutted as, like, Chicago this year.
Even if they didn't have a good roster, they have Pat Mahomes. All you need.
That is true. I think as far as the Colts go at number 8, I think that's a fair spot for them. I mean, I don't expect them to go 13-3-1 again this year. First and foremost, it's hard to tie in this game, but even aside from that, like, I don't feel like they're
11-win team.
I don't think their roster got a whole lot worse. I just think they didn't improve enough, and it's like the rest of the conference improved a ton, including the Bengals and Steelers, including the Broncos, who got a lot better, and you got the Bills getting a lot better as well. So it's hard to imagine the Colts are going to be like all that good. I mean, I think it's still a little crazy that the Steelers went ahead of them. No offense, Hobie, but
I wholeheartedly agree. You're putting me above the 1 seed.
Yeah,
like,
they did go, and it's like another thing. This is like where I also want to say like SG is like getting a bad rap for how bad his offseason has been. And granted, he's had a terrible offseason. He still had to completely fix a complete mess of a team that Tight Spot left behind him. All due respect to Tight Spot, I love Tight Spot and all that, but it's like Tight Spot was trying to build the team.
Number 1 pick to being the number 1 seed.
Right.
One off season.
Tight Spot basically made this roster where he was starting Darrington Evans as the running back. Tight Spot was was operating under emotion instead of business. Like he wasn't standing on business; he was standing on emotion. He was making all these moves that were more emotionally driven than like actually trying to win. And love the guy and whatnot, but it's like that's just the reality of the situation. That's the reality of that roster. And he took that team from what they were like 1-16 or something like that. Got him to 13-3-5. I mean, let's not sleep on the Colts. Let's not sleep on SG. He can be a good coach. He just had a really shitty offseason and an even worse draft. But it ain't over for yet. It ain't a death sentence. Actually, if you're listening to this offseason is not a death sentence to you, bro. Like, you're not done yet. Like you play in a relatively bad division. With all due respect to Troy, Val, and Derek, you played in a division with a team that went 0-17 last year. Like nobody in your division is really expected to be that much better, except maybe Jacksonville. This is still your division to lose. So, got Dameon Pierce that kind of made up for the Sprazio decision, but. You got to buck up, sir. You still got a division to hold down. You still have a chance to contend with the Bills and the Broncos. But, you got to get your head out of your behind and get to this shit. I know you're busy with work. I know how that is, but, going to be a coach here, bro. I feel like this is something you needed to hear, bro. Straight up. Like, I feel like this is something like you absolutely needed to hear because I feel like you're getting way too down on yourself for having a bad offseason. I fucked up a lot, like, me personally, not to make this about me, but I am going to make it about me for a second. I fucked up the entire second day of the draft, like, in a lot of ways, but you know what? I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I still have a solid team, and you shouldn't beat yourself up about reaching for Sprazio. Bro, I picked a 69 overall, 4th overall last year, thanks to Lance's bitch ass. So it's like... It's not over, bro. And I picked.
He had Dev.
Okay, I know Henry had Dev, and I know that Henry, but he's also a 69 overall at arguably the most important position in North American sports. So, you just picked a 68 overall running back at the end of the draft. It ain't over, SG. Don't give up. Do not give up on yourself, bro. That's all I'm trying to say. It ain't over. I mean, I still went 8-9. I mean. If y'all have watched like FG like sim stuff, Justin Washington is going stupid. That's why like a lot of people are saying the Giants might fuck around and do something. Cause FG like watched the first 2 games like unofficially. I'm not gonna say the stat lines, but Washington was going crazy in those games. So it is entirely possible that he might be a good player. But anyways, all I'm saying, don't give up on yourself, SG. With that being said, I'm trying to think of what else we can talk about. I might just wind this down. We talk about the Daduka of the day today. Pepperjack.
The Daduka of the day.
The Daduka of the day. So Pepperjack.
It goes to
Pepperjack.
It's always going to go to Pepperjack. What are you talking about?
Nah, it ain't always going to go. Elmy made a Daduka. Like, with like trying to pick up a play. What? He tried to pick up a player that is on the Raiders.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
He spent
Blake
35
Todd.
points on that player too. He's like, oh well, ain't nobody taking him over. And then Q just said, "Surprise, motherfucker." But I think, but Pepperjack was basically trying to pick up players that were. He was trying to practice squad players that were cut, and that's something that we have never done in the FGFL. And I'm like, I'm not new, but it's like, obviously, I've been very inconsistent with being in the FGFL. But even I know you can't claim. Like, I made a point to ask CJ to make sure. Okay, we can't claim players to our practice squads yet, right? And he told me no. But Pepperjack just. But it's like it's. Go ahead, CJ. No, go ahead. My fault.
I was gonna say you can't claim anybody to your practice squad. Period. Like once the season starts, like you're using the guys that you have on your preseason roster to pick some of the guys that be on your practice squad.
Yeah.
But like outside that, the game is what's gonna give you your practice squad.
Yeah, like it doesn't fill rosters, but it does fill practice squads, though. From what I've gathered. Although I don't know how true that is because I only had one player signed for my practice squad last year, so maybe I don't know. Might just be true because I think James Mitchell was the only player that ended up getting elevated to my main roster in the offseason. But I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll at least try it, but it's like, yeah, we have never signed practice squad players from waivers. Like, it's never been something that's been a thing.
It's like it in the practice squad.
If anything, you claim them to your main roster, and then you practice squad them. Like, come on, Pepperjack.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
And look, Pepperjack's not the only person to make a dumb decision. Like, I mean, obviously Pokemon, some stupid shit like recently as well, where it's like he's basically trying to change the position.
Oh, and then cut him
of a player, and then cut him. I'm like, bro. And then he also posted his position changes twice, like in 2 separate posts. Oh no, that was Pepperjack who did that, and it's like that is something. Now CJ might be a little nicer about it, but it's like it's still fucking annoying, and it's like, you know, if FG would have saw that shit, he would have cussed you the fuck out. That's why I was just trying to be nice. I'm like, bro, like just post your position changes to 1 post. And post your position changes once. Don't post them twice. You know? And I'm not trying to be a dickhead to Pokemon or Pepperjack, but it's just like, you're fucking the flow up. And it's like, CJ had a lot of shit to do this week. And it's just like, those are the type of things that will fuck the flow up as far as like getting shit done. Yeah. So, it's like, if you want the season to start later, then it's like, yeah, you can keep fucking up. But it's like, you know, don't be surprised if like CJ or FG or Ice are pissed off at you and like, you know, yelling at you and shit. Because it's like Pepperjack has been in the league longer than I have been, and Pokemon's been in the league for quite some time as well. So it's just like, there's just kind of common sense things that have always been a thing, and you know,
makes you want to strangle someone sometimes.
Exactamundo. But yeah, I'm not putting you guys on blast just to shit on y'all. By the way, I'm just saying in general, like, you know. Because if I fuck up, if I have a Daduka, we gonna talk about it on the Daduka of the week as well. Like, I feel like the Daduka of the week is just gonna be a recurring theme here. If I fuck up, I'll put myself on speaker. Like, I mean, did y'all not hear me put myself on speaker for drafting bum ass Dom Johnstone over Matthew Briggs and drafting Harrison Byers over Brandon Shagag? Like, I put myself on speaker too last week, so I will hold myself accountable the same way I hold y'all accountable. Okay, like it's nothing personal. Okay.
I would have drafted.
Hey, may I add? I'm very happy you drafted Dom Johnstone. Just saying.
I bet you are, asshole. I was very close to getting Briggs.
Asshole, but I drafted Matthew Briggs.
Hey, I was close to drafting him, but I was like, I don't like the lack of speed he has. So, you want to fucking pocket sash you have that, Hobie. Johnstone may be a Daduka, but it's like he can move around. So,
hey, if the CPU ever calls fake field goal, like kicker flip or whatever it is, where the QB goes off running, I ain't scoring. So,
I am maybe, hopefully. unless he just runs into.
If he doesn't get injured on the way to the end zone, yeah.
I would have chose Briggs, but I had insider information, so I would have felt wrong.
Hey yo, collusion? What?
No, FG told me he was good.
I mean, I assumed he was good, but it's like that's the same shit that was why I wasn't a big Fatui Evans fan, because I need my quarterbacks to have a little bit of like ability to get away. You can't just be a freaking pocket statue.
You need a pineapple Pete in your life, is what you said?
I have an Art Henry. I don't need pineapple Pete. Fucked up. Should have just let me draft Lico last year and just got like David James or Sheldon Morris or something. But to be fair,
I don't know. Salads.
What?
You heard me.
I did. I literally didn't. I wouldn't say what. I didn't hear you.
I don't want them as salads.
Sheldon Morris ain't bad though. That's the crazy part. Morris is alright. Just I feel like Sim Merchant is crazy. I mean, he's not good and watched, but it's like he'll get there eventually. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, also RSV's receiving. Also, RSV's receiving core is kind of mid outside of Zay Flowers, so.
I really thought he was going to take wide receiver round 1.
I mean, I feel like couldn't he have gotten Trice?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have got Trice, but he got Devontae Duke, who wasn't a bad pick, because, I don't know.
He got an X factor, I mean. Yeah. Can't shit on him for that, obviously, but I thought he would go receiver.
I mean, I feel like Trice probably would have helped the team a lot more immediately than Duke will. I mean, Duke's an X factor, but it's like, you know, at best he's going to be the nickel because he has Marlon Humphrey and Cameron Curl, but I don't know. I feel like receiver would have made a lot. I feel like Trice being there would have made way more sense, but he's a 78 X factor. He'd immediately become his number 2 receiver. I'm just saying. Like, you definitely play him over KJ Osborne. RSV still had a solid draft, I would say. I mean, Duke wasn't a bad pick. It's just like, I feel like receiver was a more dire need than corner, but hey. What
I know before we were talking about CJ being busy doing things, so I wanted to ask, are we getting season sims tonight, CJ, or are we?
Most likely. I gotta finish this this annotated bibliography, and then it won't take me long. I just gotta write a few paragraphs, but once it's done, I will add the announcement channel, and I will bust open a C4, and we'll knock it out.
Will we be doing that live in VC?
Celsius better.
Maybe.
No, maybe. Celsius actually isn't better. Celsius is. I don't know what they did to Celsius, but Celsius just tastes gross now.
Well, the C4 was free, so I'm taking it.
I bet it tastes even better than it usually does. Then C4 actually has a good flavor to it, though.
It tastes great when it's free.
Oh, I bet.
But yes, it will be by the time this gets released. It would have already happened, but the idea is, assuming that we will not be starting on time on next Tuesday like it was originally scheduled. If that's not the case, then there's a good chance we'll run a couple more sims. Most of the sims, at least tonight, will involve basically kind of just like going through the season, looking at stats, and then we'll also run it back where we'll even watch some games as well with the updated depth charts and stuff. But I have to do that part too, so update depth charts. So,
all right. So we're gonna wrap it up in a few minutes. I just have a couple more like quick questions, just like kind of looking at last year's draft, like not this past one, but last year's. Obviously, first round we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks taken, 2 of which are on brand new teams. My question to you guys: which quarterback do you think will have the biggest leap from year 1 to year 2? I'll start with you, CJ.
For personal gain, give me Cody Hand to be even better.
You motherfucker.
I mean,
it's hard. It's hard not to pick your own quarterback.
I mean, you don't think I'm picking Art Henry? I mean, come on now.
like if I'm being realistic, of course, I Cody Henry, even with the predicament he was in Miami, he was still a solid quarterback. But no, but my actual pick, I am thinking Art Henry. You know, he had a struggle year one. You know, the Rams are such a young team. Of course, I know I'm speaking of them third person, like their head coach isn't just sitting in the spot with us.
I mean, you're right though.
But the Rams are such a young team, and it also just didn't help that their early schedule. You know, they had to face the Seahawks twice in like 4 weeks, which Seahawks.
The second game, I don't even think we had him.
Yeah, and he didn't even have him because he got hurt. Like you just didn't have the best of luck. And finally, you saw your offense start gaining that traction towards the end of the season, but it was kind of one of those too little, too late situations.
Yeah,
so I'm definitely thinking Art Henry will be the sophomore quarterback to look out for.
Who do you think will have the biggest slump as far as quarterbacks go? So it's a 2-part question for everybody.
Damn, who started last year?
I'm looking through the draft myself, looking at the starters.
Well, Hainer was a starter in Miami. Lico's not even going to be playing this year if Lance has any say in it. Henry's heading his second year with us.
Then it's default who the slump's going to be if Lance isn't going to play Lico.
Well, I mean, aside from Lico, because Lico's a special case.
It's 70-30 he'll start.
Okay. I don't believe you. But I mean, we can include like Tim Bradford and Eagles fan Jr., of course, in this conversation. Chris Mayhew's also going to be starting, I believe.
I mean, I just don't know, who's really going to truly struggle, because like the guys who I probably would have picked, like for example, Sheldon Morris was a guy, right? Yeah. But currently, if this matches, if this is up to date, RSV's never mind, he's gonna be starting Sheldon Morris. My bad. Sorry, everybody has their depth chart worded out differently.
I mean, he'd be crazy. I don't think he'd start Mac Jones or Stevie Doer over him. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. I just
Stevie
don't
Doer.
know. I just don't know anybody who's gonna have who's gonna be worse. I think all the sophomore quarterbacks are gonna get better or be as good, which I guess in some people's eyes could make them worse.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it right now. Just every quarterback has a chance to be something, whether because every team that's having a sophomore year quarterback, their team got better. And of course, going back to Art Henry, your team got better. Yeah. Going back to the Panthers, they're very young, but they got better. Saints have Tim Bradford, they could be better. All these guys just could be better, and I'll even go to Mayhew if the Texans decide to stick with him, right? That we just saw FG's quarterback, who
Justin Washington was going crazy.
Justin Washington who was considered the worst pick in the first round last year, or 2 seasons ago, whatever, the 2 drafts ago. And early Sims was heaving and looking great. So that even goes to show that Chris Mayhew could even be good. So it's so hard to pick one.
I'll give you some time to think. I guess Hobie, who do you think will be the quarterback that has the biggest jump up and the quarterback that struggles the most heading into year 2?
All right, I think there's going to be some popular QB choices, so I don't want to take anyone's thunder. So I'll go with I'm between 2 guys. And that's Tim Bradford and Justin Case. Both of these teams, well, the Saints actually made the playoffs, but the main thing is that both these teams added weapons for these young quarterbacks to throw to. The Saints added Arazi Lockett, an 80 overall X Factor, and the Browns, I forget the name of the guy, but they added a 74 X Factor receiver in the draft.
Tyreek Archie.
Yes, Archie. So I think that Tim Bradford will probably make better strides. I like his traits better, and Sad Dan is going to be running chief scheme with Arasi Lockett, so he's going to be fed the ball. So I think Bradford's statistically going to look better, and he was on a playoff team. So I'll go with my boy Hemi Bradford.
Hemi Bradford.
And in terms of a QB that I think is going to downgrade, I know Todd loves him, but I'm going to go Eagles fan Jr. I'm
The Tank Commander.
not sold. Yeah, the Tank Commander, he might get a little better, but I feel like all the quarterbacks are going to get a little better, and Eagles fans still not going to be productive. So
I will
give me
say
Eagles fan.
he'll have better weapons, arguably, than he did with the Cowboys, because like Justin kind of inherited a situation where his receiving weapons weren't all that great, but it's like now he's got Higgins to throw to, he has Michael Pittman to throw to, Austin Ellington, of course, and of course Austin Eckler as well out of the backfield. So I feel like Eagles fan has better support, but I can definitely see where you're going though, because he still has to get his head out of his rear end. Rambo, what are your thoughts on the quarterbacks who will have the biggest jump up and have the biggest drop off as far as the rookies go? Or as far as the sophomores go. Sophomores.
The sophomores. Well, just for variety, I'm going to go with the lowest rated first round pick, first quarterback, whatever, off the board, top quarterback off the board, with David James. I feel like as a extremely low overall, take your team to the playoffs. You know, he can't do nothing but get better.
Yeah, I will say he wasn't the lowest overall. Like as far as like the 70s, he was. Well, he was like a little higher than Justin Case, but he was like, I want to say
out of the top 10 though. Wouldn't he the lowest out the top 10?
No, Art Henry and Justin Washington were lower.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I mean, but I still see what you get going.
I don't know if FG's going to start Justin Washington. That's why I didn't want to pick him. But as far as a drop off, on that one, because I mean they're in the second year of their prime growth space. So I feel like the metric would be they would be bad if they don't drastically improve. And you know, the new mod, I wanna leave room for everybody to do good, rather than say you're gonna be the same, so you're gonna middle out and be Alex Smith.
Who did you say you were talking about? I didn't catch like who name you said.
On the other end, the former,
The latter.
Oh yeah,
I didn't pick one. I didn't pick a ladder. Just because, like I said, I want to leave room for. I don't know who's gonna go into a sophomore slump.
Okay.
Because the mod is gonna change some stuff, and so sure. It's like, you know, I don't want to. I already feel bad naming people bad. I don't want to say nobody's just gonna be ass.
Yeah.
Even though it's gonna be some ass people. But
oh yeah, for sure. Lance.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay, so the quarterback I think will improve the most coming into their sophomore season. People might not agree with me, but I'm gonna say Justin Case on the Browns.
I can see
I
it.
think he can do it.
That's what Hobie said too, though. I mean, you can still keep that like pick, honestly.
Well, my final one was Tim Bradford, but I was between Bradford and Case, so I'll allow it.
Yeah,
I think Case will have the biggest improvement of any quarterback in their sophomore year.
Biggest.
I'm gonna disagree with Hobie on this one because I think the quarterback that'll have the biggest slump will be Tim Bradford.
Honestly, he seems like one of those that could go either way. Just because we look at the Saints roster.
You just don't know what type of position they're really in.
Yeah. It's like kind of hard to say they got all that much better. The rest of the I mean, defensively they got a little bit better, but it's like I feel like it's hard to say like they got that much. But
And about it.
Yeah, my big thing is that because we're switching to the mod,
yeah,
that Saints offensive line is really underrated.
yeah.
A starting five of Wills, Jenkins, Humphrey, Mason, and Conklin. Not a single one of those guys is under an 80.
Yeah. So interesting. I think my biggest quarterback who had the biggest jump forward. I think I am gonna go. This is a tough one. Like, I think both of these are really tough questions. Damn, that just makes some good questions.
Huh.
I mean, I could just be biased and say Art Henry, but what fun is that? I think I'm gonna go with. Ooh, this is a. I mean, I think Chris Mayhew, if he starts, will have the biggest jump up, and the reason why, they can't get much worse. They really can't get much worse. I mean, you think about it, they obviously went 0-17 last year. You know, I feel like Derek having issues at the quarterback position was part of it. But I think with another year, Mayhew will definitely play a little bit better. I mean, they added Wendell Fassison. They have Jerry Dudley at tight end. They still have Jaden Reed as well and JSN. And now you got Elijah Alford to mix up with Speedy Mills. I mean, Texans' offense will be slightly better, but I don't know. I mean, again, I feel like out of all the rookie quarterbacks last year, he really was like the most mid one. I mean, not even mid. He was just bad. He was definitely a big part of going 0-17, but I think he'll have a bounce back year if Derek gives him a shot at it. Now, my biggest drop off is gonna piss off some. See, I'm just pissing off all the people I care about. Husker, don't be mad at me.
Uh-oh.
I don't think the Panthers did enough offensively to make Jeff Sanders have a breakout season. Matter of fact, you look at this offense. You got Trey Palmer, you got Matt Lett, you got Demetrius Lovick, who had a really good season last year, and I know they got Dylan Maloney now. I just don't know how Jeff Sanders has that big of a season as far as improving statistically. Obviously, I feel like Husker has a solid enough offensive line. It's just I feel like he's really lacking in playmakers offensively outside of Lovick. He brought in Cam Akers as well, so I'm ready and willing to see him prove me wrong, but I just don't see how the Panthers' offense has improved enough for Sanders to really have a breakout year, but we'll have to see. I mean, I still think the Panthers have a shot at shocking people, but maybe this is just my way of trying to motivate Husker to really do everything he can to get this offense going.
I finally got mine since I've kind of went on a whole damn tangent with it. But for me, the biggest riser, I'm gonna jump on the Washington train for FG. I just think if I trust FG can definitely get him weapons, and I think he has a chance to become something good despite being the worst quarterback drafted in the first round out of that class.
Yeah.
But my biggest faller, and I'm pretty sure this guy was drafted in that class, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Sheldon Morris is going to be as good.
That was my second choice, honestly. And for similar reasons, I picked Sanders.
Yeah, there's definitely weapons in wrong. Obviously, Zay Flowers is a massive weapon, no matter what. But outside that, KJ Osborne, right? Obviously, you have Nick Chubb, but this offense is going to be, once again, the Nick Chubb show.
Yep.
And it's going to basically be this game's going to be win or loss on if Nick Chubb's going to run for the 150 yards and a touchdown, and hope your defense sticks it out. And that's just the tough thing about it. Because I'm not saying that's taking away Sheldon Morris's ability. You know, like obviously he was RSV saw something good. A lot of people saw something in him because there's a lot of talks on where he was going to go, right? But just knowing that there's not just as many weapons around him, at least the quality of depth of weapons around him, is what's going to really be his downfall.
I agree. That's kind of like the mentality I had about Jeff Sanders. I'm not saying Jeff Sanders isn't a talented quarterback. He got a big old rifle for an arm. It's just a matter of what his weapons are going to do around him. It's not that Jeff Sanders ain't a good quarterback. It's just the weapons around him kind of lacking outside of Lovick. But again, I mean, I guess Laporta too, but Laporta hasn't really devved well quite yet. Maybe he shocked some people, but I don't know. It's less about Sanders not being talented, or about I don't know that Husker has done enough to really get that offense like more weapons. But we'll have to see what happens. So, all right, I think we're gonna wind it down on that one. Just last thoughts for you guys. We'll start with you, CJ.
You know, I'm very excited for what all our teams can do this year. Obviously we've seen big swings in terms of, for lack of a better term, power rankings. And I'm just intrigued to see who truly becomes better, and then who is like mid, I guess, and then who gets worse, right? Because obviously a lot of us are vying for that ability to be good, and it's great to see every coach trying to make an effort to become good. But you know, there's still some coaches out there who will probably just fall behind the pack while everybody else is kicking each other and trying to make things work. And I'm intrigued to see who climbs to the top this season.
Show. Hobie, last thoughts, last words.
Let's get this thing rolling. I'm ready. I have been since the day I drafted Dexter Moss. I'm so fucking pumped to get this season rolling.
The FSU
So
fan
I
in me
think
loves that for you.
Yeah, I was playing the war chant when I drafted him, so that makes you
Hey,
feel any better.
I am mad at it.
But I think we're going to see one of the most fun seasons in FGFL history. So I'm all here for it. I can't wait. I'm stoked.
I'm right there with you, Hobie. Rambo, any last thoughts?
Well, first, I want to say thank y'all for having me.
Anytime.
This is quite literally the second podcast I've done my whole life. I'm not really a social person. But I feel like this is going to be a beautiful season.
Oh, for
I
sure.
feel like this is going to be very...
I think you cut out.
More during the season moves, a lot more people paying closer attention. Competition, the level of competition has greatly increased.
Oh, for sure.
FG coaching, bringing CJ in, me. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year. I don't really plan on attending, speaking on my team, but we might. So who knows?
Never know. Lance, any last thoughts?
No thoughts, only football.
Only football. I guess my last words is like going off what Rainbow was saying. This is probably like I don't have much to compare it to because I was only in FGFL 18 for like a season. I was really on some Mr. Rob type shit. Mainly because I was just like really like focused on like doing my own channel and shit. I think FGFL 19 I joined for like half a season and quit. FGFL 20 was probably the longest tenured FGFL I was in, and I just wasn't very good, and I quit after like a year and a half. Didn't do 21 or 22, and then I decided I'm doing 24 no matter what. Fuck it, and I've been here for 2 years. From what I have seen, because I have paid attention to the FGFL, I think it'd be a fair argument that at least in the NFC, this might be the most competitive a single conference has been since the FGFL started. I think, arguably at least, like in recent history, this is like one of the toughest conferences like that we've had. Maybe not the league as a whole, but the conference, the NFC, ridiculous. So many teams could make the playoffs. So many teams could get left out. It's going to be a dogfight for sure. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you so much to CJ, Hobie, Rambo, and Lance. I think this week I'm going to do a recording on Friday because we got the Super Bowl on Sunday. I'm working anyways, even if I wasn't like, even if I wasn't working, you know, I'm sure most people would want to watch the Super Bowl and do the FGFL podcast. So I'm probably going to record Friday. If any of y'all are interested in being on the show, let me know by about Wednesday and we'll try to get you in. I'm trying to keep it to like 3 or 4 guests a week. You know, I'm not trying to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but, you know, I think having 4 other people in here, perfect. But yeah, just let me know. I'm going to try to rotate people in, try to get as many people in as possible. If we got to do, like, situations where, like, multiple people got to do, like, shows on back-to-back weeks, like, if they're interested in doing that, that's totally fine as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching this. Thank you guys for being here. Episode 2 of the Spilled Kool-Aid podcast. Spilled Kool-Aid and you don't know the flavor. And we'll see you guys next week. Take it easy, y'all. Deuces.